to make another video about safeguarding. Guess what? As usual with my videos, I saw something on Twitter and it you know, has been working its way through my brain as I process it, and I want to share it with you. So this is a thread that was made by GeorgiaXCross on December the 16th, 2021. And she's talking about some new statutory guidance which came out, which is important, and you know, this is the legislative and policy framework that we work with within the UK. So this is really important for safeguarding. It's not as dry as it sounds, okay? Stick with this. Quick thread. Please read this piece on the latest addition to the statutory guidance for safeguarding in schools. Statutory means what schools must do to comply with the law. Any organisation working with children or their parents, brackets, parents are often the initial or concomitant targets of abusers, as they oversee access to their children, close brackets, should be looking to model their safeguarding approaches in the same way. Note advice in this article about how to respond if safeguarding concerns are raised with your organisation, even if these concerns are low level and do not meet a threshold of immediate harm. For example, you need to create an open and transparent culture where staff feel comfortable raising any concerns, even nagging doubts, about colleagues or even themselves. An employee who is the subject of a low-level concern may say that they are being bullied by the person who raised it, or that they are being harassed or discriminated against by the school. Also bear in mind that an employee who has raised a concern will likely have blown the whistle, and so should not be treated badly or dismissed for reporting the concern. And then it advises you to also read a wise thread from Safe Schools _UK, who are a fantastic organisation, the Safe School Alliance, who are brilliant at this stuff. Let's look at the guidance, and this is a document, Keeping Children Safe in Education, Top Tips for Dealing with Low-Level Concerns. So this is an essay written by some lawyers who specialise in workplace issues, such as, you know, teachers in a school, or working with a third sector organisation that has contact, direct or indirect, with children. So it says, Department of Education releases new guidance. The latest updates to the statutory guidance introduce a new duty on schools and colleges to deal with low-level safeguarding concerns. While there is a clear rationale for picking up on possible safeguarding concerns as early as possible, putting this new duty into practice may not be straightforward. The first thing that's not straightforward about it, of course, is that low-level safeguarding concerns are the kind of things which might worry you and might make you go, how do I feel about that? I'm not sure. And they're not the kind of things where you would phone 999, like hit the alarm, all hands to the pump, there's some kind of immediate deadly danger. A child is wandering into traffic, somebody has left the gas on, you know, something that is like danger of death. So something where, I don't know, the decision is fairly clear cut. A child has come to school, they haven't eaten for 3 days, they're wearing clothes that are falling off them, there's a clear case of neglect, we need to phone the social workers. Like, you know, it's a kind of clear-cut situation that you have to phone. We're talking low-level safeguarding concerns here, so this is a little bit more subtle. So we're talking about things where, you know, maybe somebody makes a couple of off-colour jokes and you think, is it just they've got a weird sense of humour, or like why are they joking about something that's just not funny? It's just not funny. Or it would be funny if they were in a bar but they're a teacher and it's weird because your joke is about, I don't know, girls wearing short skirts or something. So it's inappropriate, but it's not danger of death inappropriate. It's just something that makes you go, that's not okay. What's wrong with that? That's just doesn't feel right. And it's a case of what do we do when we have those feelings? So it says, read our top tips for implementing the new guidance. 1. Understand the new duty. Schools and colleges must ensure that they promote an open and transparent culture in which all concerns about adults working in and on behalf of the school or college are dealt with promptly and appropriately. This enables you to catch any inappropriate or problematic behaviour early and potentially minimise the risk of abuse. Under the new guidance, schools and colleges must deal with low-level concerns as well as more serious allegations that meet the harms threshold, i.e. allegations that might indicate a person would pose a risk of harm if they continue to work with children in a school or college. So those are the kind of things where someone's going to make an allegation and the essential kind of staff protocol would be probably we're going to suspend this person, do a formal investigation, come to some conclusions, and it could be career ending for that teacher, and it could have already had life-changing consequences for children in school. So really serious stuff. Talking about things that are low level, so things that are not approaching that level of harm. So we're not anticipating that whatever has happened has caused a life-changing injury. We're not anticipating that what we're talking about has got to the level where you would go, do I consider a suspension at this point? Is it dismissing? Is it like a firing offence? It's low level stuff. So a low-level concern is any concern that an adult working in or on behalf of a school or college may have acted in a way that is inconsistent with the staff code of conduct, which isn't serious enough to meet the harms threshold. The facts and context will of course be key here, but examples in the guidance include 1. Being over-friendly with children, 2. Having favourites, 3. Taking photographs of children on their mobile phone, 4. Engaging with a child one-to-one in a secluded area or behind a closed door, or 5. Using inappropriate, sexualised, intimidating or offensive language. Two, update your policies. Schools and colleges should have a low-level concerns policy within their staff code of conduct and safeguarding policies. This should set out what a low-level concern is and the importance of sharing these, as well as emphasise the purpose of the policy. You should also set out how you will deal with a low-level concern, i.e. it will be referred to the head teacher and appropriate and timely action will be taken. Ensure you also cover how you will deal with a concern raised by a third party. So that means a concern that's raised by a parent or by somebody that comes in to work at the school. Maybe they're a sports coach that comes in to supplement the sports offer. Maybe it's somebody that comes in and gives a speech, or maybe it's a charity that you're contracting for some mental health support or some other function at school. I don't know. So why is it important that we share low-level concerns? So what we think about is that safeguarding is all about building patterns. So what we're talking about here in terms of low level concerns is we're talking about how do we highlight the things that could make a pattern or might not. Because if you were to look at a random pattern of paint splatters, the kind of person that has a pattern recognition brain might find a pattern in there, even though it's all completely random. But if it is random, usually we will at some point be able to say, right, well, that looks fairly random. And the more things that are in a pattern, like they're in a triangular shape or whatever, the more people are going to say, I can see a triangle there. So what we're looking for here is points of like paint splatter, which would indicate a larger pattern, which we would associate with a risk. So the kind of patterns that we're looking for, we might be talking about somebody who told a female pupil that they were beautiful. Just that. On its own, that doesn't rise to the level of harm that would trigger phone the social workers, this child is at risk, suspend the teacher and all the rest of it. But it's a disciplinary offence because this is inappropriate and it's showing favourites, and it is having time alone with a child. You're having a private conversation that just relates to the two of you. So these are all reasons why this one comment would be a reportable comment. You should report this along the line of management, because this is the kind of thing that should be picked up and it should be recorded. So this one incident is, at some point, Trevor the maths teacher, called Annabelle in year 10 beautiful. Right? That's it. So then another thing happened on a school trip, and Trevor, the maths teacher, said to a group of girls that were on the back seat of the bus, you should drink Diet Coke because then you won't put any weight on, because you want to keep your lovely figures. And again, a staff member reported this because it wasn't inappropriate. The girls just giggled, nobody made any sign of feeling uncomfortable, but it's just a bit off. Why would you comment about girls' bodies? Girls' bodies, it's not okay for an adult man to comment on girls' bodies. But it doesn't rise to the level of harm. It's not something that would bring down the wrath of social services or send the police round to arrest the teacher. It doesn't rise to that. It's just another splatter on our kind of, is there a pattern in these paint splatters? And then there's a third incident where it's the staff Christmas party, and Trevor, the maths teacher, makes a pass at Mademoiselle, the French exchange student who's come in to help with so she's a young adult who's come in to volunteer at school, and he makes a kind of clumsy pass. They're both adults, they're both single. It's kind of not okay though, because it's a workplace thing, and although it was kind of that boundary between work and social, it's not okay. It's not okay because he's 20 years older than her, and his attentions were unwelcome, and he should have known that without having to make a pass at her. And she said it was fine. She wasn't worried about it or anything like that. She didn't want to take it further, but another teacher noticed it going on, and this is another paint splatter. So now we've got a number of different incidents that create a picture of this Trevor, the maths teacher, and what we're building up is a picture here where he's not really sure about boundaries. He's not really sure about what it's okay for him to comment on and what it's not okay for him to comment on. I mean, that's a possible explanation. It's possible, worst case scenario, this guy's a groomer and he's actually testing boundaries because he's a predator and he's looking for access, because predators are looking for access and opportunity, and they're looking for social cover, so they're looking for a context in which that they can have that access. So worst case scenario, he could be a predator, but you know, on balance, he might be, and I would say it's possibly more likely that he is just an awkward person who doesn't understand boundaries and really needs to do some work on that. So how would you deal with it? Well, this policy is saying that this should be a process. So someone senior to him should take him aside, and perhaps it's not as formal as a disciplinary meeting, you know, bring your union rep along. Perhaps it's a little bit more informal than that, but it can be informal as long as it's recorded. All of this has to be recorded. It has to be put down in writing. There has to be a paper trail for this, because patterns are only evident when you've got all the different paint splatters to look at. If you're only looking at one paint splatter, you don't have a pattern. And without the details about all the other paint splatters, you don't have evidence of anything. So the idea is that by noticing these patterns before anything major happens, we can spot where we might be either inadvertently providing social cover for predators, or allowing awkward people to make other people uncomfortable by accident, or not providing the training requirements that young people have when they come to us. Maybe they've not learnt this stuff. So we're talking about low-level concerns here, because these are things that we think can usually be fixed. Clayton. Number 3, get staff on board. In order for schools and colleges to catch any inappropriate or problematic behaviour early, you need to create an open and transparent culture where staff feel comfortable with raising any concerns, even nagging doubts about colleagues or even themselves. Simply asking staff to read your policy is unlikely to achieve this. You need to discuss with staff and explain what you need from them and why, and ask them if they have any concerns over the new guidance and allay any fears or misunderstandings they may have. They may be reluctant to report a low-level concern about a colleague for fear of being judged, looking stupid, or being ostracised. They might be worried about the colleague or other staff finding out. Having an open discussion about this and explaining that anyone who speaks out will be commended and protected should help to reassure staff and create an open culture. Holding staff training sessions could also help staff to feel confident in distinguishing appropriate behaviour from concerning problematic or inappropriate behaviour in themselves and others. You know, it sounds kind of simple, but there is a lot of stuff in there. So first of all, this thing about it's very difficult for British people. We don't talk about feelings. Like socially, there are a lot of kind of it's a little bit taboo to talk about, you know, you said that thing to me and it made me feel this way, and now I'm telling you those feelings because I'd like it not to happen. Again, that's kind of really difficult conversation for British people to have in the main. We don't do this well, and particularly people that haven't had mental health treatment or mental health training or therapy or whatever, don't have this self-improvement thing going on where you kind of look for things that you could improve about yourself and try and correct them. So the idea that you might look at your own behaviour and think, maybe it's not okay. Thinking back in terms of my own behaviour, I'm thinking back to making a comment about a girl who was a friend of one of my children and making a personal comment about her, and then realising that's not okay. Why am I making a personal comment about this girl? Why? It's not appropriate. And like, my daughters don't need to know my opinion about this girl. So it didn't rise to a level of harm. My children weren't damaged by it. This girl wasn't aware of it. I didn't then go out and shout it in the street or anything, but I did make a comment, you know, and that is the kind of thing where that's a low level concern that I had about myself. I didn't need to speak to anybody else about it, but I was able to become aware of it myself and make a commitment that I wasn't going to do that again, because I didn't want to be the kind of person that makes people feel uncomfortable, make inappropriate comments about my children's friends, or, you know, whatever. And it doesn't really matter whether or not anybody else is there to hear it. I would know. It is a really difficult thing if you're going to have a conversation with somebody that you work with and you want to communicate with them that there's something they're doing that you'd like them to stop doing or to do differently. That can be really awkward to do, and you know, especially if perhaps they're at an equal seniority to you, or they're even more senior than you are. That can be really, really extraordinarily difficult. So policies like this are a really, really great way of making sure that organisational leadership understand that it's their responsibility to create a culture where there are opportunities to have conversations like that are really awkward and which go against our kind of social conditioning to a degree. So you've got to kind of maybe do lots of role play in your training so that people get a really clear sense of where the line is. Like, we're not saying, you know, I think this child might have been abused, or this child might be being commercially exploited, or whatever. Those are like, you know, the harms threshold has been met. We're talking much lower level harms here. So obviously you still take action against, you know, big red flags. We're talking about little red flags. And the more little red flags you have, the more of a pattern you can see, and pattern recognition is important. And it's a very good skill that we have. So the other thing is that if you were to make a disclosure about somebody that has made you feel uncomfortable, you've witnessed something that you think might have made someone else feel uncomfortable, essentially you are a whistleblower, and you're probably covered under whistleblower protections. I am not a lawyer, you know, you might want to seek legal advice, you know, if you're in this position at work, I don't know, but your union certainly would be always a good place to check, and they also generally have like a legal thing, part of your union membership, but also you have whistleblower protections, and your organisational policy should reflect that whistleblowers should be protected. So the organisation should make it easy for you to make statements about low-level concerns, low-level safeguarding concerns, and they should make that process easier for you. Because creating that culture doesn't happen by accident, you know, it's a very conscious process of creation and recreation, and it never ends, and it can go in the other direction just as easily if you take your eye off the ball. So I would say that that would be priority. It's really important that we think about safeguarding. I'd really like to see us pay more attention to it. So thank you for your patience sticking with this video. There will be more content coming about safeguarding soon. So thank you so much for your patience with the channel. Thank you for listening to me talk about safeguarding again. And it won't be the last time. And yeah, see you soon.